Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today is an actor, director, writer, educator, and improv legend. He's left an indelible mark on theater, film, and television across multiple continents. Now, born in Ottawa, Canada, Michael Robinson's journey to the spotlight began with the role as a polar bear in a kindergarten Christmas pageant. Now, from that moment, the stage called to him, and he answered with a resounding yes. A globetrotter from an early age, Michael's upbringing took him from Calgary to Brussels to Vancouver, where he pursued his passion at the University of British Columbia. As the very first graduate of UBC's groundbreaking BFA acting program, he made waves with his unforgettable performances as Lucky in Waiting for Godot. But that was just the beginning. He quickly became a force in the world of improv, helping to shape the Vancouver Theatre Sports League, now the Improv Center, into one of the most renowned improv institutions in the world. A champion many times over, he's won World Theatre Sports Championships in Canada, New Zealand, and Los Angeles, sharing the stage with legends like Colin Mockery and Ryan Stiles. Not only has he performed, he's built, taught, and inspired. Now, after moving to New Zealand in 1990, he founded the Court Gestures, which dominated the global improv scene. As an educator, he's trained across Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and beyond. Now, his contributions to improv and theater education are monumental, creating long-form improv formats that have been performed in festivals around the world. But Michael is not just a master of the unscripted. He's a visionary storyteller in the film of television with 10 directing credits and 6 writing credits to his name. He has helmed productions across genres, from children's programming to documentaries, sitcoms to dramas. His directing career has earned him a Leo Award, a BAFTA, a Prix Jouas, and a Royal Television Society Award, among 10 international accolades. His credits span both sides of the camera, appearing in Life on the Line, Assault on Wall Street, Christmas Crash, Far Cry, Blood Rain 2, Postal, The Last Tattoo, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Endgame, Reaper, Dead Like Me, and MacGyver, just to name a few. But beyond the bright lights of the industry, Michael has always sought new frontiers, whether it's an artistic director at Queenstown Shakespeare Festival, as an outdoor leadership instructor in Kenya, or as a forest educator in Canada. His passion for education and adventure even led him to the slopes, where he's an award-winning Level 2 CISA ski instructor, proving there's nothing that he can't master. Now, if all of that weren't enough, he now takes on his most ambitious role yet as head of acting for the Center of Entertainment Arts, spearheading the first ever actors training program in Saudi Arabia, with future expansion set for Cairo, Istanbul, Genghis Khan, Birmingham, and Vancouver. A pioneer, a storyteller, a champion of the arts, he's not just a performer. He's the head behind Clear Direction 360 and Best Audition Tape. Please join me in welcoming Michael Robinson. Michael, thank you
Wow.
so much for your time and welcome to the show, sir.
I want to meet this guy.
Yes, and absolutely. I think I can arrange it.
Yeah.
I
Well,
want
thanks
to
for having me, Chris.
I want to dive into this with you, sir. It's, your career spans acting, directing, writing, improv, and education. What
Yeah.
drives you to continually expand your skills?
Golly. I'm in my genes appears to be a very strong thing that gives me a sort of relentless curiosity uh, that never has diminished. And so that kind of drives me to want to explore something new all the time. Because once I've explored it, it's less satisfying to as you kind of discover more and more about it until the map is kind of filled in. Um, that's a process of diminishing satisfaction. Whereas a new thing, I don't know what's there. I have to go find out. I have to figure out how to do it. That's really a joyful place for me to play in. Yeah.
And were you always like this when little Michael was running around? Did he still have that drive and ambition, or was he more, hey, I'm okay with just the yes and or the no buts, and it's okay?
It isn't so much I don't feel like I'm a driven or ambitious person. I doesn't It feels more like I'm just following my heart. It's
Hmm.
very emotional. Um, and I just have a good idea of what makes me happy. So so when I'm, you know, pitching myself as a coach for actors, and I'm doing that, that's kind of a concurrent thing I'm doing with my ski instructing right now. Um, I just thought I can do this. This will make me happy, and it does. Um, and then figuring out, like, what is that to teach acting one-on-one to somebody, as opposed to teaching a class where everybody has to follow the directive of the teacher and do an exercise, which, you look at the class and you go, well, I know that six of those people are really gaining from that, but six others aren't. When you coach one-on-one, you don't restrict yourself to a rote set of exercises that you're going to teach someone. You look at that person and go, well, what do they need right now? Where do they need to grow? How can I stretch them, or expand how they're approaching this craft so that they are more valuable to the industry? How can I make this person higher value so that when a director meets them, they go, ooh, this is someone who's going to add to my project.
There's a lot there, and I love this, and I love the opportunity that I'm here with you. So, how do you find that? If an actor comes in, you're one on one with them versus a group, how do you
Mm.
know? And we'll talk to your experience here, but it is the opinion of where it's how do you know? How do you know where to expand? How do you know where to push? How do you know that, hey, you know what, you are missing this, and that's what the director is going to say, ooh, that's the value add. How do you know that?
You don't know. You have to have confidence. I have confidence in myself, and that's kind of that's partly genetics, I guess, partly from a secure childhood with wonderful parents, and partly just I've had a lot of success. So when you sort of garner all these awards and things for directing, you do end up with, oh, okay, I really do know what I'm doing. And what am I looking at when I'm cast my own actors? Why have I succeeded with those casts? What did they bring to the project that other actors wouldn't have brought to the project? So I just apply my own vision as a director to what I'm teaching. And I just trust that because I have had this success, that what I'm saying is at least pertinent to other directors who are like me. Of course, you can't make somebody valuable to all directors because they all have different perspectives, of course. But in general, uh, I don't think many directors would have disagreed with the choices I made, so you're sort of hoping that they're gonna at least sort of glom onto that's the quality I want to see in it. Like I love actors who can improvise. I think most directors do. So why wouldn't you have an improvising actor on your set who can take a mistake and make it gold, like Dustin Hoffman crossing the street and saying, I'm walking here, in Midnight Cowboy. Improvising that, or Marlon Brando at the end of Apocalypse Now, improvising that whole incredible speech. The horror. Why wouldn't you have that guy on your set? So I want an improviser. I want an actor who can improvise, an improviser who can act. I want to see both. I want an actor who is the author of the character's journey in the script. I want an actor who takes responsibility for authoring that, who brings to the set more about the character than the director or the author of the screenplay imagined. The the actor is the only person on set who knows every minute of the character's day, who knows what they do when they're not in the movie, who knows where they go home at night, who knows what for breakfast this morning as a character. They're the only person who knows that stuff, who puts all the details of the given circumstances together in their minds to make a complete picture that is insightful into the human condition and that makes the movie better.
And this kind of breaks it down to the think one thing, say another, and kind of have something else going on at the same time.
Exactly. We're complex. People are complex people. People are complex characters. And knowing the culture and knowing where you fit in that culture and knowing how the culture affects you. Uh, that's always a big part of what I'm looking at. And I think generally tends to be one of the thing actors in North America, anyways, tend to be a little weak on is not really paying proper respect to the force that culture plays in shaping how they act in that given circumstance that the director and the screenplay author has set up for them to play.
Kind of like
Yeah.
knowing the character, that if you know the character inside and out to the extent of your breakfast, your way home, what your living room looks like, you can actually play a different depth to these people and give it more.
Yes, very much so. And that's the person you want on set. And that's the person who can improvise too, because if something does happen and it goes off book, that person's going to have a whole background to draw on that will allow them to keep going in the scene.
So how do you formulate that? Let's say there's a brand new actor that comes knocking on your door. Michael, I need your help. Help me out here. How do you take this particular method or approach to the actor so that they can connect with the character? It's one thing to say, "Hey, what did you have for breakfast? What did you do? How did you get here?" as the character. But how do you really get the actor or the student in this case to really buy into that and be like, "Yes, here it is."
Um, every student is different, so I'm not going to be doing that the same way each time. And every student has a different dream about themselves as an actor, has a different motivation for wanting to act. So, that being said, when I'm first meeting a student and getting to know them, there will be some stuff that I want to play around a bit with improv. There's often Shakespeare gets introduced very early into the conversation, and I will give them a Shakespearean monologue to memorize and perform. Um, and through exploring that, especially Shakespeare is very effective, you find out where their challenges are. Some people really understand how the more change you put into something, generally, the more engagement you'll get from your audience. Some people get that, and some people don't. Um, some people really understand where the depth of emotion comes from in themselves and how they connect that depth to character depth. Some people don't. Some people have unstable cores. You get a lot of people in acting who have insecure or insecure attachment, um, anxious attachment because they weren't really loved properly, and they're looking a little bit in acting for their core, and not dismissing them for that, just going, okay, that's who you are. So if you are not quite settled into yourself and you can't settle into yourself, what is that to become that chameleon then that can find others' perspectives
Hmm.
and embracing that part of yourself? Um, so you're kind of you're just saying, well, here's this, that they're good at this. The difference in training someone one-on-one is just saying, well, you're already good at that. Some people walk in and they're beautiful physically. They just have this vibrancy and this physical ability to expose the subtext of what they're saying with their bodies instantly. You don't need to train them. They're done. That's baked. That's good. You're gay. You got that done. We're gonna work on your voice because there's no resonance there.
Hmm.
And we have to have a free voice in order to act. And then you get another person coming in who's the reverse of that. They'll have a gorgeous resonant voice, like a Stradivarius violin that carries the texture of every tiny emotional droplet that's in the text just comes out on the voice. It's like, whoa, I don't need to touch your voice, but boy, you're stuck. Your body doesn't move above your waist. We got to work on that. So it's just seeing what's missing from the pile. And it's very fulfilling because it's really efficient. You don't have to take the actor through a whole bunch of stuff they don't need to know. Almost everybody that walks in already has a bunch they already know. And you're just helping them with the stuff they don't know about acting.
Now, you had mentioned something back a while back about improv and directors. Like, why would you not want that person on set? And when they come into the room, we're looking for this missing piece? And this is an improv question for you. Most people, when they hear improv, it's yes and making stuff up off the top of their head and not really realizing that there's actually a lot of listening uh, involved and listening to your scene partners and whatnot. But often we miss a step when we're playing these games or performing, and it's usually called a no but. When you're looking at these performers and you're looking at them come in and you're giving them all of these lessons on what are we missing, how often are you finding that people with an improv background master the yes and, but they always forget the no but, or they try to take that scene a little bit differently? Yeah, you're cringing.
Yeah. It's a lovely, really lovely, insightful question, Chris. Yeah. So there's in any acting theory, there are constraints that end up kind of if you trust it too much, it's going to take you down a rabbit hole and not lead you to a place that's actually authentic. So you sort of use as illustrative purposes, you're using yes and versus no but. The truth is in life, some characters say no all the time. Some characters are scared of the future. So what is that as an improviser to avoid playing that character? It's a problem. You can't avoid any characters. You should be capable of embracing any character at all that you are approached with and say, would you like to try this? Um, some people are very defensive. No but's it's a defensive thing. We can't ignore that part of the human condition. So I take those actors who are kind of stuck in that improv paradigm, and I kind of expose them. Look, we're an actor now. We can't just. This isn't just about forwarding the action in a 3-minute arm scene.
Mm.
That's, yes, Anne's very good for that. May not be so good for playing this character who's petrified about getting married. And doesn't ever want to watch anything but CBC, you know. So what are we doing with this? And what do those no buts really expose about them? You know,
So
how
what
can
kind
you
of when
go
we
ahead?
when we talk about this, sorry to interrupt, but when we talk about this stuff and we look at these guidances, how do you guide that actor that says, okay, here's the script, right? Here's the information. We need you to improv a little bit, but don't get carried away. This character is neurotic. This character is scared. This character is over pleasing, doesn't want to get married and wants to watch CBC. How do you navigate that with actors that come to you?
Well, you just you, you have to do it gently. You, you do it through questions. I mean, the actual process that I would use would be asking that actor, what do you think? Look at that action that's written in the script. They do that. What's motivating them to do that? What emotions are they feeling when they do that? Where do those emotions originate from? Uh, so it's getting them to answer the questions so that they go on an interrogative journey in their head where
Mm,
they're questioning how these things came to be. And that's kind of starting that process right away of becoming that author of a character who ends up building a foundation stone or a foundation pillar for the actual film or the project that they're doing
mm.
because it's solid, and if you haven't answered those questions, it's not solid. What you're doing is not going to be grounded, and it's going to be sort of flimsy. And the audience can tell. The audience is very, very smart. That's part of my process, I guess, as a director. One of the reasons I've had the success is I've always deeply respected the audience's intelligence. And they can tell when something's off. They can tell when something's real. They don't need a lot of help, you know, they just get it.
Now, talking about your directing experience and the projects that you have, what do you feel is one of the biggest lessons you've learned from directing that you didn't learn as an actor starting out?
Wow. Wow. That's
Only the
interesting.
toughest of questions on Coffee with Chris, I tell you. It's
I guess, I guess, I would say the biggest lesson I learned as the director was how essential it is to have everybody uh, on the set playing their position, if you like if we make an analogy of your position, like you've got a soccer team, you've got a center, you've got a forward, a right wing, defense, so like everybody's in their position. How are you going to create a team where everybody's teamwork is helping the person next to them score the goal or defend? That as an actor, you are very much in your own world to a degree. Like only I have all that stuff in my head about the given circumstances. So I'm and I don't get to cast it. So I may be with someone who isn't really
Mm.
on one. And so I still have to bounce off them in a very kind of yes Andy kind of way in terms of I can't change the way you're thinking about the world. So I have to respond to that the way my character would respond to it. Uh, as a director, you get to modify that, right? You get to see how everything fits together. Uh, and I think it definitely, I guess, coming out from directing back into acting, I would have said I was a quite a bit of better, it made me a much better actor, it made me a less selfish actor, and
Oh,
it made me more empathetic to my other to the other people around me, whether they were on camera or behind it.
now
Definitely more empathetic. Yeah.
when we talk about learning these different skills and looking back from directing to acting, and especially with your education work, you've worked with students from different cultural backgrounds, and you've been on set with thousands of people, and you've coached and trained some of these amazing stars that we have out there. What do you think is universal about acting, and what changes based on culture? Like if someone comes to you with a different cultural background and maybe English isn't their first language,
Oh,
what's universal about it?
wow. Love that. That's a great, when I worked for many years, I worked at the Vancouver Film School, and that school tends to have or had before the student visa changes, um, had a very high percentage of foreign students. And so I would get quite a few students from Mexico, Brazil, Iran, America, Germany, Sweden used to send quite a few. Yeah, and it was a great cultural melting pot in that classroom. Boy, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, you there were definite cultural distinctions. Uh, the Mexicans, for example, always had they never had a problem with warmth. There was and with doing family scenes, there was always sort of this warmth and sort of kind of strands of strong emotional connection to any family member they were playing with. Very easy for that. And then versus a Canadian who may have a much more tenuous family bond. Uh, People from Iran tended to be just fantastic with description, like in terms of how they description, what do I mean by that? How they sort of reflected on their environment and the people they were around, anything to do with that. It was just full of this almost Rumi-esque poetic power. Very, I was delighted when I had Iranians to work with. It's just like, oh boy, you're just gonna nail that, especially if you're doing script creation work. They were always often very strong authors. They would write very well. Yeah, I'm working in New Zealand, especially training improvisers in New Zealand versus training them in the States or Canada. Uh, just their courage. That country has courage baked into its DNA. And that was such a refreshing and delightful thing to have almost a guarantee that anybody I would audition and bring into the improv company would be brave, right? I can, you know, yeah, it was very cool. So I hope that those are anecdotal answers to your question. That's sort of all I've got, I think. Yeah.
No, it's great because in the sense where we have this cultural melting pot, as you phrased it. It's every culture is going to bring something a little bit different that is unique and launching in. And as we're on the theme of culture, you're now going to be head of acting for the Center of Entertainment Arts, and it's launching programs in Saudi Arabia, Cairo, Istanbul, Vancouver, and more. How did that come about for you?
I guess it came about mostly because back in 2016, when I was the advanced directing instructor at the Vancouver Film School, uh, the head of international business affairs managed to get us into Saudi to teach a workshop. Uh, it was the very first filmmaking workshop ever taught in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And I went and taught it, and it was very successful. And I really liked where I was and really enjoyed the people. I think they enjoyed me too. That country is probably the most misunderstood country in the world in terms of how it is viewed from Western eyes. It's almost the reverse of what people think about it as. And I was shocked to find that. I was shocked to be confronted with my own prejudices about what I thought Saudi Arabia would be before I went in. It was nothing at all like how it's presented in the West. Completely different. And it just blew my mind how different it was. And I said, how could we get this so wrong? Well, where have we gone off course to misunderstand, misapprehend a
Hmm.
culture so completely? So so that kind of really lit a fire in me. You know, the other thing I studied at UBC, other than acting, was anthropology. And I'm always deeply curious about culture, and so it really lit a fire in me about that culture, about where it was at, um, about how, and about, of course, how when I was there in 2016, it still only had one cinema in the whole country,
Oh.
and people were making YouTube videos and doing a lot of comedy, pretty good comedy too. Pretty funny stuff. Very physical, sort of broad, but slapsticky. Good. Like really, they understood the comic reaction. I didn't have to teach them that. There's a lot of people in North America who still don't know what the comic reaction is and think the funny's the joke. It's not. It's how you respond to it releases the laughter. But they got that. They knew that. So that was cool. And just knowing that, wow, coming back here, being able to teach the first generation of artists. Wouldn't that be amazing? So as it turned out, the guy who was the international business affairs went off and formed his own school, which is the sorry, Center for Entertainment Arts, and um, and he remembered that workshop, of course, and just contacted me when all the things had lined up and all the ducks were in a row. We had a good pitch, which the Saudis jumped on because they remembered it too, or at least they heard of it.
Are you able to give us, if you're able to share with us, a summary of the vision for this program, and when are you kicking it off?
So it's pretty. It's wow. I'm excited. I've always been skeptical. That's kind of baked into my DNA, and so I'm the guy who's not gonna just go, oh, method acting, comes to us from Lee Strasberg, therefore it's great. Uh, I'll just look at how it is and what it does and what the results are. So I've always wondered if there was a better way of teaching acting that I wasn't doing because I'd never had the opportunity to really explore it from a different angle or took the risk to kind of throw away all the stuff that I had been taught. Feels, even hard to say that because acting students tend to be very respectful of their teachers, and I am very respectful to my teachers. I really love what they taught me. But so what we're doing, we're going back to the original elements of voice and movement, and we're going to really emphasize skill, technical skill. So creating actors who can move, and the way we can do that, the way we couldn't do before, is motion capture. So a motion capture artist is an artist who uses movement. So we get Andy Serkis, who really should be honored with an Oscar by now for his work doing Gollum, and that's a movement piece. It's a vocal piece as well. It's a voice and movement piece, and he's doing both. Uh, so since the movement is so expressive and so definitive about who Gollum is, why not train people doing that? So we're training through we have a mocap studio. We'll be training all our actors to move using mocap. And my assumption is once that they can move using mocap, if they can bring to life a mocap character using movement alone, that's an actor who I can trust will have great movement on set, no matter how or
Mhm.
what I'm going to cast them in. I have absolute faith that if I cast Andy Serkis in anything, he's going to be using movement to explore and expose that character's inner life. I trust it. I don't need a proof of concept. I've got Gollum. I've got all his other work. I
Yeah.
know he's and vocally the same thing. If you really get a person who using Kristen Linklater's wonderful book, Freeing the Natural Voice, has a natural and free and resonant voice, uh, and has really gone to town in the old school way, which we're not doing anymore. Voice classes have almost disappeared from curriculum in North America. And what we have in place is voice over classes where people are practicing character voices and stuff, but they need to practice the original Kristen Linklater, Cecily Berry stuff to have that free resonant voice, and then you can go practice your character voices. And so there'll be a process of that. And my assumption is if you really dial both of those in and you give them a project to work on that requires that to be dialed in and that has a result of being dialed in, which we're going to do, um, then we're going to have a great result. And that project is they'll be using Unity 5 to create their own animations and create their own characters that they will fill in using mocap and their own voices. And they're going to be voicing and moving all the characters in
Mhm.
this animation create, each one. So that's going to be pretty definitive about, wow, that's a skilled actor. They've actually moved differently for each character. They've got different voice for each character. They're seeing life perspective of each character from that perspective. That's somebody I could work with.
It's neat that you bring this up because it's as the industry is evolving with technology and there's new platforms and we talk about this mocap, it kind of leads me right into that where how do you feel that technology is going to play on actors and actresses moving forward in the next, let's say, decade?
I think I think Unity 5 is a huge moment. I think it's right now it's being used for previs and visual effects a lot. It's already disrupted that whole world. That previs is not being drawn or you're not hiring animators to do it. You're just doing it in Unity 5.
Mhm.
Um, uh, and I think the fact that it is so powerful and that you can basically everything that an old style animation studio used to have a whole building for and 40 people is now in your grunty gaming computer.
Yeah.
So you've got this at home. You can, what's to stop an actor making their own animation series?
Mhm.
Nothing. Nothing but their own imagination and their belief in themselves. And they've got the tools now. So I think we're going to enter a period where actors rise in power. I think actors are going to become more important because at the root of it all, that's the genesis, that's the beginning. You don't need a person who writes a script. The actor can do that. You don't need a person to direct it. The actors can direct themselves. You don't really need anybody other than the person who's in front of the camera telling the story.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring it back to that. I think we're going to get smaller units where actors are playing just more of a prominent role. I think there's going to be more responsibility on the actor's shoulders, and I think we're going to get better acting as a result of it.
When we look at this technology and the influence, and you're going to see these better actors come through, eventually because of the technology piece there, what do you believe a misconception would be? Let's say there's a new actor coming to you. What is the common misconception that you have found in your experience that people believe about acting or don't fully understand?
Hmm. I think the most powerful misconception would be it's me. The audience pays to see me. I'm drawing the character from myself. They're really here to see me, And I would always say, okay, well, is Mark Wahlberg the model then? Is that what you want to be? You want to be Mark Wahlberg? Because they are going to see Mark Wahlberg because there's no acting there. There's just Mark, being
Yeah,
Mark.
you said it, not me.
You know? So, or do you want to be Johnny Depp? You want to be Kate Blanchett? Who do you want to be? Because I don't see Johnny Depp when I go to see it. Or as I go see Captain Jack Sparrow,
Hmm.
to see his character work. You know, I never front up to a Kate Blanchett movie thinking I want to see Kate. I want to see what Kate creates, right? She's a genius. She's amazing. Why wouldn't I want to watch what she creates? Nobody's fronting it up to see you. They front up because they trust that what you're going to create is something beautiful and worth watching and gives insight into the human condition. So that's the biggest misconception. You get a lot of people thinking that they just want to see me. Nope.
I love that you said that. Actually, it's a very real and honest answer and take on it, and it's really refreshing to be honest with you. And Michael, where can people learn more about you? Where can we like and follow you? Where can we subscribe? How can we
Oh,
learn more?
so, uh, I hopefully after I take up the reins in Saudi, I'll actually have a better social media presence because I've been kind of left behind by that. I'm not hugely uh my curiosity about social media isn't probably what it should be. So I'm not the guy who's got the website and everything. I'm on Facebook, but just as myself. I don't have a Facebook page. I'm on IMDb. That's just, once again, it's nothing you can interact with me. I'm Michael Robinson 2 on my end on IMDb. There's no, you'll have to move to Vancouver and just come see. I want a coaching.
And Michael, if someone gave you a magic wand and you could fix one thing about the world tomorrow, what do you think that would be? Or what would that be? Not what would you think? It's what would it be?
I would wave my magic wand and cure all the narcissists of all the narcissists and make them good people, especially right now, what anybody's doing.
Didn't mean to laugh over your answer, but yeah, no, it's and what's something that you wish someone would have told you as a young actor getting into the industry?
I wish I had been told that I had to discover how much acting is at the root of everything to do with showbiz. And I wish I'd been told that. I wish I'd been empowered more. So my journey to empowerment took a decade after I graduated before I started directing. And it was just luck that I fell into directing. I'd been on a TV show on the pilot, and the producer said, "I think you should be directing this show." When it got picked up, the pilot got picked up, and this got the money to make the series, and he hired me to be the director. And I said, I'd never directed TV before, and he went, "Well, don't worry, I'll teach you." And he was the guy to do that because he was brilliant and a wonderful, wonderful man. Uh, I wish I'd been trained that way.
Hmm.
I've been trained from the beginning as a creator, not just an interpreter of character, a creator of projects, a creator of new things. You know, most acting schools lag behind the times grossly. When I was taught as an actor and graduated in 1983, Hollywood North was starting to happen. There was more and more production coming to Vancouver. We had no film and television training at all, nothing on camera, nothing. So I graduated from UBC as a stage actor. And my main teacher, who I adore and I love him, he's a wonderful teacher. He was appalled that I was doing improv. He said, "That'll wreck me." Improv became my main thing and why I became successful. It's like, I mean, he was a great teacher, though. I learned so much from him, but his advice was so bad. He just didn't understand how important improv was going to become. He just didn't see it at all. He just thought it was silly.
And Michael, I have time for a few more questions with you today, and this has been absolutely a treat for me to have you here. Uh, when you wake up in the morning, what kind of coffee do you go for?
I don't drink a lot of coffee, Chris. I know this is Coffee with Chris. Consultant. Um, I tell you about the best cup of coffee I ever had.
Yeah.
It was in Moshi, or Arusha in Tanzania. And I walked into this coffee shop and ordered a cup of coffee. And he brought me out a steaming cup of Java, and it was the best coffee I'd ever had. And I looked around there, realized I was actually in a place that sold coffee beans to distributors that had been picked on the slopes of Kilimanjaro. That's where we were, on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro. And what I was drinking was actually a pure Robusta bean, which the Robusta is the cheap coffee bean, right? That they used to fill in, but this was pure Robusta. Still the best cup of coffee I've ever had in my life. Big, powerful, it was like drinking a big Pinot Noir, like a big Burgundy from France. It was like, whoa, what the heck is this? So that's if I could have that coffee every morning, I'd be drinking coffee every morning. But it kind of ruined me for coffee. I couldn't find anything that tasted that good.
And I have time for one last question for you today, Michael, on Coffee with Chris is what makes Michael Robinson smile?
Absurdity, juxtapositions. you know, I'm smiling thinking right now of my acting teachers back at UBC, and how they didn't really prepare me for the world. Still give me a great training. So everything's weird. I love the weirdness.
I love that. As I said, was the last question I had for you today on Coffee with Chris. I really appreciate your time and you being here. This has been an absolute pleasure and a treat for me. I wish you nothing but success down in Saudi creating that program. Everyone out there, get to Google, get to follow Michael Robinson when he gets his social media up and running. See what he's done, see what he's doing. Remember to have a fantastic day and smile to inspire. Thank you so much again, sir. This has been amazing.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for asking. It's been awesome.